Hey, Macrolane Nation. Quick tip from me, Gregory S. Koch, Esquire.
Today I want to do something a little different. I asked a bunch of my friends to just, what's the first thing that comes into your mind, a piece of advice that you would give to someone as a musician before a gig or in general. I got some great responses about playing or the way you think about gigs. It's really great. I really loved that everybody did it. So thanks to all my friends coming up, and I hope you enjoy it. I had a great time putting this together. And by the way, I have a giveaway going on, giving away a Universal Audio Lion 68. This is like a Marshall in a box. I love this thing. Just use the link above or below. You can sign up and enter for free. We're also giving away a Universal Orion Tape Echo. So you get both of those together if you win. So you got to be in it to win it. I just made that up. Use the link above or below.
Quick tip from me, Gregory S. Koch, Esquire. When I'm changing my strings, I keep my guitars in tune. I take one string off at a time, put the new one on, yank the bejesus out of it. It stays in tune. Move on to the next string. If I do that, I can change strings about 5 minutes before a gig and it'll behave. I hope that's helpful. Later, cats.
So these days when I solo, I like to punctuate my phrases like they're sentences. And the way I do that is I make sure my amp is set up for lots of dynamic range. And that means it's not too distorted. If I need more distortion, I'll just step on a pedal temporarily, just to get more grit. But for the most part, it's set without being too distorted so that I can play softly and have it sound clean, and then play harder with the pick and make it more aggressive and edgy and distorted. And that allows me to punctuate sentences on the guitar. So if I have those two levels, that's great. If I can get a third level or even a fourth level, it's even better. Now let me try it in a track.
Hey Jeff, I was trying to think of what a hot tip is, and it just occurred to me that I carry all of my tools in a Shure SM57 case, and I bought that 57 probably 30 years ago, so I guess I'd advise everyone to buy your own 57, because then you get a tool carry case for it. And in that carry case, a couple things I carry that might be unique are, I have this hex wrench or this tool, but I use this more, that is the right size for an output jack. And specifically you want this configuration so that you can actually get in there and do it on a Stratocaster, And then the other one that I have, the other hex wrench that I have, is this one that's super slim, and it's the right size for a potentiometer, so that you can go in under the knob. You don't have to take the knob off to tighten that. So if you're using backline instruments or your stuff loosens up when you travel, those have been really valuable to me. So that's it.
All right, my super quick tip is to use your thumb, the left thumb, for strength when you're doing vibrato. Just gives you way more of this fulcrum here to bend strings with. A lot of, the traditional thumb behind the back, the classical guitar thing. There are times when that is really effective, but overall, 90% of the time, I've got my hand up here. Also, for fretting notes, whether it's playing chords, or if I'm playing, for instance, the bass note with my thumb, and then hybrid picking using a couple of strings above. And the whole time I'm doing that, I'm muting the A string with my thumb too. So I couldn't begin to play half of what I play without this technique. I've never met anyone who couldn't eventually get comfortable doing this. It's kind of like riding a bike. One day you're up on the bike. So I don't buy the argument that your hands are too small. You can do it. Good luck.
Well, hey, Jeff and viewers of Jeff's channel, one thing I could tell you about being prepared for a gig or practice or anything that involves you holding your instrument, your guitar, is something I picked up from the great Kenny Werner. And it's approach it with gratitude. I'm always one to come at it from a little more esoteric nature sometimes, because these are the things we often forget. We get bogged down in technique and, everything, gear, whatever. And we forget that we should just be thankful that we actually understand even how to play the guitar a little bit. It's an inanimate object made of wood and metal, and we learn how to make sounds with it that ultimately make us and hopefully other people happy too. So approach your practice session, your gig, with a little bit of gratitude. Pause for a moment and say, I get to do this and I want to have fun, and I have no expectations other than just to have fun. So there you go. Have some gratitude, have fun, and that's going to seep into your playing, and your other players will probably feed off of it too. There you go.
Just a quick break here. If you like my channel, please hit the like and subscribe button, as it helps out quite a bit, as usual. I have one of my favorite courses on sale, and it's called Solo Blues Guitar. One of the most important things and educational and helpful things I've ever worked on was to be able to play an unaccompanied blues. I give it to all my students, and I find it is so helpful for you and me as a player to, one, work on our time, be able to play a blues, be able to throw in fills and turnarounds and have something that we can play by ourselves unaccompanied, no backing track, no band. Somebody hands you a guitar, hey man, play something. You can sit down and play a blues. This is also a great springboard for everything. Like I said, you getting your playing together builds your confidence. Also, a lot of the stuff that even we're talking about on this list, it's all blues based largely. So if you get really firm in playing the blues and confident in it, everything else really starts to kind of come together. All right, so that course is available on sale using the link above or below for a special price. Now back to the video.
Hey gang, I have 2 tips for you, and they're sort of one tip and 2 sides of the coin, and it's both a do as I say, not as I do, because every time I have a live gig, I'm like, oh yes, let's customize, put together a whole new rig specific for what that gig is. But here's my tip. Gig with what you know. You'll be so much happier, trust me. I'm gonna give you 2 examples. I had set up this rig that is so cool. It had a 4-channel head, it had a MIDI switcher with loops so I could step on one button, switches the head, switches pedals, everything like a Bradshaw rig, but just sort of more smaller. I hit one button, I accidentally stepped on 2 buttons. And I changed the mode of my switcher into some sort of configurator mode. And I couldn't get out of it, and it did nothing. I was just stuck in this random mode. I just stepped on every pedal that I had, every button on there, pushed everything until it came back to the standard presets mode that I had. Bonkers. You should know how to get in and out of these modes when you're using a piece of gear live, right? Now, the second part of this is to double check everything before you start playing. I played a gig that I was playing bass actually on, and it was sounding amazing. I borrowed my buddy's SVT 8x10. It was amazing. It had a vintage Ampeg top. It was just spectacular, and I had like tiny pedal board with 3 pedals on it. So we did our sound check. It was great. And then we went off to do our thing, right? And I put my bass down, and I put the cable down. And this is not the pedal that was the culprit. I sold that one because I was so mad at it. But I'll explain. The cable miraculously went through these like knobs as it just rested there. So when I came back to play, I went boom, boom, cool, I'm good to go. And then I go, and pulled the cable. I had no idea, and it just zeroed out all of my knobs on the first pedal in line. We were playing Song 2 by Blur, when it comes in, it goes, woohoo, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Instead, it went, woohoo, ding, 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 ding. And everyone turned and looked, and I was like, what happened? Where did all my sound go? It was here just a second ago. And it was really dark on stage, so I couldn't see that the pedals had been zeroed out. So of course I go to the amp, and I'm like, it's a vintage Ampeg. That must have died. Let's just turn that up. Until I stepped on the pedal, a full stack vintage Ampeg SVT with an 8x10 comes blasting through, and you could see everyone in the front row, their hair just went back. It was like, and then the sound guy lost his mind, and he's like, turn down. Okay, sorry, my bad. So if I could have just, I would have saved myself some embarrassment and been able to enjoy the gig more. So use the gear you know and double check that it's working before you hit that first chord. See y'all.
Okay, here's a quick tip. Make sure you're setting aside enough time every time you sit down to practice to work on creativity. Creativity isn't something that you just are gifted or awarded because you learned all the notes on the fretboard and all your scales and all your music theory. It's something you have to actually exercise every single day, whether that's through focused improvisational exercises or writing. I mean, there's countless ways to work on this stuff, but set aside a respectable amount of time in every practice session to do just that. It's going to help you a ton with keeping a joyful connection to guitar and also with developing your own voice on the instrument.
I'm out here right now on tour with Peter Frampton, and I'd like to give some advice to young musicians. If you're looking to be a professional musician, always show up early and prepare for the gig. Every gig's important. Learn the music. Go the extra mile and spend extra time learning the tunes if you got time to do that. Have a good attitude.
Hey guitar players and musicians in general, here's my one advice to you guys. Get out of your house and play with real people. Not machines, not backing tracks, none of that. Just go and play with real people that play instruments. It doesn't have to be a gig, could be a rehearsal, could be a jam, could be somebody's house, could be one person, 2 people, 10 people, but the whole idea is just to play and interact with real musicians. That's where it really happens. You can stay at home and play with backing track for your whole life. It's not real. You gotta be interacting with real musicians. Also, another thing is if you can play with musicians that are better than you are, that's even better. But whatever you can get, do it. Get out of your house and play. The world's needed. Bye.
One thing that I love about the guitar, and what makes it different than a lot of other instruments, is that there's more than one place to play a given note. Sometimes that means playing an open string instead of a fretted note, or vice versa. When we combine open strings and fretted notes to play ascending or descending intervals on non-sequential strings, that's called cross-string playing. And I really like this sound. I use it a lot in my playing and in my arranging. For example, here's an ascending and descending 2-octave A minor scale using cross-string technique. Okay, so I might take that technique and come up with a part like this. Experiment with that and have fun.
One of my tips that I've applied religiously to my shows is I often like to rehearse to either television or even other music. My stuff is multi-metric, and I find that when I practice along with unrelated music, it actually helps to focus my attention, and I find that invaluable when I go to shows and there's a crowd and it's noisy and whatever, and I can tend to be a nervous performer, so if you're easily distracted, that's problematic obviously in a performance. So I find it really helpful to rehearse to a variety of sources to make sure that my focus is really centered. I hope that's helpful. It's helped me.
Oh hey, it's Dave from before, Dave Phil from Show Business, hanging out with a bunch of hot axes. Anyway, my main advice for all guitar players is whenever you're playing like a solo or even like an open G chord, the 2 things to remember are to point at someone out in the audience who may or may not even be there, honestly. And then the other thing is kind of pick a fight with your chin. Just pick someone like 20 rows back and be like, what's up, what are you looking at? And here's an example of both those things. working together. So, anyway, that's guitar in a nutshell. You're welcome.
Hey, Adam Levy here with a quick tip for guitar practice. Do you use a metronome as part of your practice routine? I like to use one. It keeps me honest with timekeeping and groove and stuff like that. But I noticed that for the first couple of minutes, often it's hard for me to settle in. You know, my nervous system starts to get excited, and it can be hard to connect with that time, that solid time. So what I have found to be helpful is actually to turn the metronome on before I actually pick up the guitar and start practicing. So turn it on maybe while I'm just, turning my amp on and tuning my guitar, having a cup of coffee, whatever it is. And it's just going in the background, tick, 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 and all that. And my body starts to go, oh, okay, that's just a thing that's happening. And I might move in relation to it. I might pick up the coffee on the, on the beat, or, tune my guitar somehow in relation to the time. And then by the time I get to whatever the material is, scales or whatever it is I want to work on, I'm kind of just more used to it, more relaxed, and I'm ready to do the work that I'm setting up to do. So try that out. That's my tip.
Hey, what's up? This is James Hogan with a pro tip. When you're on a gig or on a session and you get tuned up, you get your sound dialed in, stop making noise. Just chill for a minute, because nobody wants to hear you test your favorite blues licks and your 15 overdrives on your pedal board. So get your sound, get dialed in, get tuned up, and then just chill and wait for the downbeat. All right? Cheers.
Here's a little pro tip for you, kind of a no-brainer, but a lot of people don't do it. When you're getting ready for your big recording session or your jam session or your gig, try to change your strings the night before. There's a lot of reasons for this. Obviously, they stretch. You give them more time to stretch, but it lets the neck acclimate, lets the guitar acclimate, depending on where you live in the country, what kind of humidity, all that stuff. It definitely makes a difference. I like to do this stuff the night before. I stretch the hell out of them, and they feel great the next day. It gives everything a chance to settle in and gel. Hope that helps you out.
When you're on a gig and there's that one person who's not as good as the other people on the gig, I think the best move on that one is encourage them, help them, teach them, show them the way. Maybe they're just having a bad day, or maybe they're not up to par yet, but you never know. They could be your employer in a couple of years. So that's what I think.
Wanted to hit a few points about subbing on gigs. Someone once said to me, you've had a great night subbing on a gig when nobody has noticed that you are subbing on that gig. It's been seamless and you nailed it. So to get to that point, preparation is key. You got to learn the book, as they say. Replicate the gig as close as possible on every level. Not just the tunes and the forms and the transitions between the tunes, but having your gear up to snuff, making sure all your patches are dialed in and rehearsed, making sure your vibe and your visual is on points and appropriate, and then you show up on time and don't bring any excuses. Once you're up there, it's important to be transparent, and you never want to distract your fellow performers from nailing the gig like they usually do, as they're accustomed to doing. And if you do that, you will be appreciated, and you'll probably be invited back.
Hey everyone, Dan here. Hope you're awesome. I can't remember where I heard this, but this is a really great way to help develop timing and feel. Got a metronome here set to 48 BPM. The slower the better, really. But what you want to do is think of these as snare hits. All right, so on the 2 and 4, and then you want to feel where that kick drum would be. So 1, 2, 3, and you play along with that. it's really interesting because you have to listen, but you also have to feel where that kick drum is. And you can swing as much as you like. It's a really great way to practice. I hope that was helpful.
So I want to say a special thanks to all my friends doing this, and I hope you check all their stuff out. If you are not familiar with them, they're all awesome, and they're all great people, and they have a lot of great stuff to say. So thank you for being here. Don't forget, once again, the Lion giveaway using the link above or below, Universal Audio Lion and Orion Tape Echo pedal. All right, I'll see you guys later.